I wanted to say a few things about being a kid associated with the Aspen Center in the early days. So I was here in 1963 and 1965 when I was 5 and then 7 years old. Those years, both of my parents were working at the center. Both of my parents are physicists. And so we came for about a month or so. And there's a few things that I remember about the center, and I think they were also things which made a big impression on the other kids of about the same age. So the most interesting thing about the center at the time was the field of horses next door. And we would wait for our, there'd be times when we'd be waiting for our parents to finish their work and come out. And what we would typically do is stand by the fence, which must have been right about where this building is, and feed the horses, because the horses would have grazed, the grass in their area pretty thoroughly, but just outside there was long grass, and we would take it and feed the horses. Aspen was, very different then, and one of the things I remember was the dirt streets, and the fact that there was very, very little pavement. This made a big impression on a city boy from the East, and it made it seem really, exotic and undeveloped. So the other thing I remember clearly about the center is the picnics. The picnics were very big deal, and the picnics used to happen in contrast to what we do now, where we have a picnic on the campus. The picnics typically happened elsewhere, often I think fairly far away. I don't remember where they were, but from talking to people afterwards, I gather that this memory comes from a picnic in Ashcroft, where I remember the kids playing on old wagons and on some of the old things that were around, and it was just a lot of fun to have this sort of wide open space and these interesting old things to climb on. And we stayed very late. Typically the picnics happened and it kept going until it was really dark. So I remember, actually as a parent now, I'm kind of surprised that we were allowed to play on this, 50-year-old stuff when it was dark, but it was fun at the time. The other picnic thing I remember is the teaching of rock climbing. Now, I was young enough that I didn't participate, but I was fascinated at watching this. And I think it was Randy who organized it. And at one of the picnic sites, there was a fairly sharp, there must have been some kind of rock face, and he would set up a rope and belay people down it and have their first experience of being belayed and and I remember thinking that looking forward to the time when I was old enough to, be able to do that too. My pals for both of those 2 summers were 2 other boys, the Stearns boys. So there was my brother and myself. My brother is 18 months older than me. And the Stearns, Martin and Mary Beth Stearns, who are both physicists, and they came also those 2 summers. So again, both parents were working at the center. And we hung out a lot with the Stearns boys. This was partly because, the boys were the same age, so we had a lot of the similar things, but also because since the mothers were working, which was quite rare in the 60s, both of our families had what we called a housekeeper in those days. I guess these days one would call, I don't know, a nanny, daycare person, something like that. But we both came with somebody. And those 2 people, of course, were also natural. They were friends. They became friends those 2 summers. And so we did a lot of things sort of as 6, the 2 adults and the 4 kids. One of the things we did was horseback riding. That was one of the big attractions to coming to Aspen. The stables we used were right on the other side of the Roaring Fork, across the bridge there. The town ended at the bridge, and so I'm thinking of the east side of town. And right on the other side of the bridge, on the right-hand side, were the stables that we used. And we went out, I think, twice, 2 mornings a week, maybe 3 mornings a week for the whole month, and then also in 65. And it was great. We had a wonderful time. I remember some hiking. We went up to Maroon Bells a number of times. Of course, when I was 5, I didn't get very far, but I think we probably made it to Crater Lake that year. But Maroon Lake was really a fun place to play. I remember wading in Maroon Lake, near the outlet of Maroon Lake, sort of splashing in the water. In 1965, the hike I remember was I made it to Buckskin Pass then when I was 7, and that was a big accomplishment. I was very proud of getting up to Buckskin Pass that year. There's 2 more things I'd like to mention. One is swimming. Aspen is connected with swimming for me because the first year in 63, the center had arranged for the families, for everybody to be able to use a pool. It wasn't a public pool, but it was a pool close by. I don't remember exactly where it was.
It was at the Aspen Institute at the Meadows where they housed
people. Okay, that's right then. And that's where I learned to swim. I learned to swim here in 63. In 65, I don't think, at least I don't remember going to that pool. I don't think we had privileges there. But there was a pool in town. There was a pool downtown, a public pool, that I went to quite a bit that year. And the other thing I remember about the town is Pinocchio's. Pinocchio's, the pizza restaurant, was the favorite restaurant for the kids. And they had a outdoor terrace where we used to sit. Various of the families would come and have dinner after, probably mostly on weekends after hiking and so on. We would have dinner at Pinocchio's, and that was a treat. So that's pretty much all I remember of the Aspen years, and that's what I'd like to say.